Yes, the stream just began. Welcome to Justin Lall. Like a kind of a guest appearance. He's the world's greatest bridge player. I'm not sure if you can see his shirt, but it's right there.
If the
And
shirt don't fit, you got to acquit.
yeah,
Any conference said
yeah, it definitely fits. So Justin Lall is the greatest bridge player, at least of our generation. I am the same generation, but I just didn't have the same opportunities. So that's the thing.
That's true. That's interesting that you bring up opportunities because I'm a big believer and I had very good opportunities early in my life, and that is more of what made me where I was today than talent or like
All right.
talent. Talent is not a thing. I had opportunity and I had drive, and maybe they're interconnected because my dad was a great bridge player. I knew great bridge players, and I was driven to be a great bridge player. And then from there, I had good teaching. All those people taught me well.
Right.
It's not just one or the other, but talent is nothing. Like, please don't believe anyone who says it's like there are probably 1,000 guys who had more talent who never even played bridge, and 1,000 is even underbid them. So,
Well, I mean,
you know
not
what
a
I
lot of
mean?
players, not a lot of people learn to play anyway. So that's
Right, and even of those, they don't learn from the right people.
all
So
right.
I had a huge lesson.
Yeah, they just go to the same clubs, make the same mistakes, and learn from the people who get 55% instead of 45. But right. Yeah,
And if they show talent, then they learn all the conventions,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
end of them.
That sounds like some people I know, or maybe even myself. But okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you're doing right now. I heard you're doing the trials, and it started already yesterday, but you're not playing yet.
Yeah, it started yesterday. There's a round robin, but three teams, the top three teams, had a bye to the round of 16.
Okay.
And starting in the round of 16, you play 120 board matches. So effectively, we're going to play hopefully 420 board matches, which is a very nice format.
420? How many?
Four matches of 120 board.
Oh wow, yeah.
Skill should be a large. I mean, there's still luck, but skill should determine more. The
You're right.
outcome.
So
In
so
fact, it's my favorite event because of that. It's quite skill based, and there's a reason that the nickel team played in the Bermuda Bowl for 18 straight years because it's
18
very
straight.
skill based, and they were by far the best.
Right. So you're playing for the Diamond team this year, which is obviously one of the really famous teams in America. Could you tell a little bit about that? It's the first time you're
Yeah,
going to play for them,
the
or
Diamond team. I mean, the nucleus of that team has been Greco and Hampson, and John Diamond and Brian Platnick, and they were playing four-handed for a while, and they were playing with Jacobus and Wold for a while. And before that, when they had a huge run of success, they had Brad Moss and Fred Gittleman, who owns BBO, and they had a great run of success. And they've done great in all the major events except the trials. They've actually, don't quote me on this, but I think they've been second or like the last run. Sometimes two teams qualify, so they either second or third when second would have qualified them like 6 years in a row. And
oh,
last year they lost by 8 to Nickel. So uh, they've had an incredible run, but not in the trials. So hopefully we're going to change that.
mm-hmm. So
But they
you're
added
going to be like USA two, but if everything goes well, you'll be playing for as USA two. Like
oh
you
yeah,
you played for USA two 4 years ago, all right? In the Netherlands. You can see the map right there. It's
still
so
couldn't name it on the map. Sorry, I'm American.
that's fine. Yeah, but so it's actually interesting that the U.S. has always two teams, but I think Like there is not like a big difference between the performance of USA one or two. I see often that let's say the USA one doesn't even make it out of the round robin, and the USA two goes far, or the other way around.
That's been in recent times. In the times before that, it was just whoever Nickel was the best team in America,
All right.
and I still think Nickel is the best team in America. But the Fleischer teams and the Diamond teams, and before that the Welland teams, they kind of caught up. But there
Mm-hmm.
was definitely like a 15-year run where it was just the Nickel team. I don't care if they were USA one or USA 100, like they were the best team in America.
Mm-hmm. 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 So, what do you think of this? Like, it's a strange thing that actually the U.S. has two teams and the other countries have only one. But of course, like U.S. is much bigger and so on. But
Yeah, I actually have. So just so everyone knows, there are three world championships. The Rosenblum where anyone can enter. Okay. There's the Olympiad where every single country can enter. Seems like a fair event. So in the Olympiad, every country, I don't care if you're Bahrain, like how small you are, you can enter.
yeah,
And the third one is the Bermuda Bowl, and this is considered by top bridge pros as the most prestigious one to win, and that's done by zones. Okay,
yeah,
so so Europe is not Europe, but Europe is a zone, I think, and they have
yeah,
six countries that get to go, and the host country gets another one. So if it's in Europe, they get a seventh. Same with any other zone. So the zone of US, the reason we get two countries is not because we're USA. It's we have by far the most people, so
yeah.
we get two of the three of our zones, and in fact that proportionally is good for Canada and Mexico. And
All right.
I don't know if Caribbean islands are involved, but typically Canada and Mexico play off for the third country in the zone. So yeah, and there's a huge outcry. Well, USA is only one country, but USA as a zone, which is what the Bermuda Bowl is about, we're
Yeah.
actually underrepresented.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's pretty fair. I think you have one where every country gets to go, one where as many people want to go, and one that's based by zones.
Yeah.
And I think, Europe having six and USA having two, I mean, who's better, USA three or Europe seven? But Europe is not a country.
Yeah.
Europe is a continent, so no one cries about that. So I think it's pretty fairly represented. Honestly, I think we're underrepresented when it comes to zones for obvious reasons. You don't want three US teams when everyone else has one
Yeah.
at most. And in fact, even USA having two is a big outcry.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's totally fair. There's one by zones, one by countries, one that's open, and USA is just a big zone. I mean, if you made USA into 50 states, which would be kind of similar to Europe, and we got to have six of our states go, no one would say anything. So
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. I understand. Of course.
I
And
do know that's a pretty controversial view, but I think people don't realize that the Bermuda Bowl is about zones as
mhm.
opposed to the Olympiad and the Rosenblum.
Yeah, but I mean, who else is like in your zone? Is it just the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, or do you have some other small?
I don't know if like Bermuda or the Caribbean islands are part of our zone.
Mhm.
To be honest, I think they might be,
Like
but
there was a.
I do know that Canada always plays off against Mexico.
Mhm,
So I
mhm.
don't know if that just means that's
There
all
was
we
a.
have.
Yeah, just recently there was Guadeloupe. You know, like, there was actually a top French players kind of moved to Guadeloupe to.
Right, but were they in the Bermuda Bowl?
Yes, they were. Yeah, they were for sure. But
They, so maybe there's a Central America zonal.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't
So
know how the zones work, but I do think it's pretty fair when you're talking zones and proportionate to how many members you have that USA has two and Europe has six.
yeah,
Based on
that's,
the numbers I've seen, seems pretty reasonable.
yeah. So, for have you played for Diamond before, or this is the first time you're going to play for them?
This is my first time on Diamond. My partner Kevin Bathurst,
Yes.
he played with them last year with Brad Moss. I was on a different team.
Yeah.
Kevin and I, it's an interesting because like I moved to New York when I was 20 to play with Kevin, and we started playing a lot, and we were doing pretty well in the nationals. We beat Nickel in the round of 32 when no one had done that,
Hmm.
and but people think that it's like a big breakup and happens instantly. Everything kind of happens a year in advance. And
Oh.
Kevin got a great offer to play with Dan Zagorin, who's one of the top, certainly the top sponsor, but one of the top players, and that just worked out for him. I mean, this is our job also, so we're gonna look for the best. So if Kevin could play with me on a worse team or play with Dan Zagorin, who's a very good player, and have a better team, he should take that.
Hmm.
So the end result was kind of like I've been playing 15 weeks a year with Kevin at regionals, but we haven't played the big events since then. And
Hmm.
we were teammates when we actually when I my one time going to the Bermuda Bowl, I was teammates with Kevin and Dan, and I played with Joe Grew, but I still wasn't playing with Kevin. So now Kevin and I are kind of forming the partnership again, and we're going to be on the Diamond team. This is our first time on the team,
Hmm.
and to me it's super exciting. I don't know, it's those guys, they were just second in the Vanderbilt, and they won the Rosenblatt. I mean, they have such immense success that we're kind of the up and comers,
Hmm.
which is a weird feeling, to be honest. Like, I mean, we are young, but we're also, it doesn't feel like we're up and comers, but we're on teams with these guys who have won world championships, these guys who have won dozens of national championships.
Hmm.
So once again, I feel like the up and comer, got something to prove. So yeah, so I'm really excited. I think my teammates are great, and if Kevin and I pull our weight, the sky's the limit.
And how does it work actually? Do you have to sign like some kind of a contract when you're on a pro team, or do you kind of have a verbal agreement on how long you will play with them? And
There's a verbal agreement uh, based on how long you'll play with them.
yes, so this is just for the trials, is it,
No,
for now?
the typical at the higher level, the cycle is the Vanderbilt, Risinger, and Spin Gold.
All right. All right.
And that the reason that is a cycle is because you get seeding points towards the trials based on how you do in those three events.
Mm-hmm.
So at the higher levels, you make at least a one cycle deal. It's called the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, here we're the one seed and we get a bye in the trials. And if you have foreign people or if you're not on the same team, you don't get as much seeding points.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and you can make a two-cycle deal, three-cycle deal, one. But it's just like all professional athletes. You kind of want a longer deal for
Sure.
more guaranteed money, typically. And
And
and conversely, the people who are signing into the deal, they want it to be shorter, so that if you don't perform, they can fire you easily and move on to a different team.
but do they ever like fire people in the middle of a cycle, or is that only for very strange or brutal things? Or
It's not. I have never signed a legal contract. Uh, a lot of the clients I respect, if they want to fire people, this is actually in most cases, if they have a deal, because if you think about it, the people who make these deals are very successful business people, not just good bridge players, but they have enough money to hire an expensive bridge team. If they want to fire their team in the middle, they pay them off and go
no,
for
sure, of course, yeah.
but I'm not gonna lie and say there hasn't been cases where people say the stock market crashed, I have no money, I can't pay you.
Mm,
And so are you going to sue them? You didn't have a contract. And, some people do sign a formal contract, but is that enforceable in law or is that even worth pursuing? So there is a lot of honor and word of mouth
mm,
involved. Like, I believe when I talk to someone and they say, we have a 2-year deal for this. If things don't go well, they will buy me out or, play out the contract.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're definitely exposed to that not happening. But I assume I'm not a business person. I assume that's the same in every business transaction. At some point, someone can try and screw you over, and your options are, do I go to court or do I not? And
Yeah.
how much is it worth?
But I guess it's also not so easy for them to find someone in the middle of a cycle. Then if all the other good players are taken, I mean,
Well, but there are a limited amount of clients who will pay what top pros are worth.
sure. Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Worth
Yeah.
being defined as what the market would pay. And so usually in the middle of a cycle, it's hard because all bridge pros try and get deals for the cycle.
Yeah. 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 Sure.
So it's actually not that easy.
Hmm.
I mean, you can get something, but it'll be, literally maybe a 50% pay cut.
No,
And
what I mean is it's also
we,
difficult
we,
for the
we make
pros.
50% of our money at the nationals and trials. 50%. Just
Oh.
those tournaments. That's 50% of our money. So
Mhm.
roughly.
Yeah. No, but but it will also be difficult for the pro for the clients to find a good pro, I guess, in the middle of
Right. If they want to just fire you, but maybe the market has crashed and they don't want to hire a team.
yeah, yeah,
Then it's easy to just fire you and say I have no money and there's not much recourse.
yeah. So again about this pro client relationship, I guess there's like a big variation as to what they expect from you. Like if they're gonna put a lot of pressure on you or not, or how, what's your experience in this?
Um, well, for starters, there's club game clients, there's regional clients, there's national clients, and even among those, like I would say, I'm on a John Diamond team. That's basically the top of the line.
Yeah,
So he expects his team will win. And if you think about it, like let's say you Chaba like hire whoever you think the 5 best players in the world are,
yeah,
you're probably not going to win a Bermuda Bowl because who has the biggest impact? Like, is the difference in Max Stroth, who's clearly better than
yeah,
me and me, how big is that difference? Like it's big, but not in the it's not as big as let's say I have a hopeless client versus I have a client.
yeah,
John Diamond and Brian Platnick won the Blue Ribbon Pairs. Like basically a
yeah,
client that could be a pro. So the difference in John Diamond and you
yeah,
is a much more massive difference. And people don't give clients like every good team, every team that wins something that has a client has a good client
yeah,
because you can't put in some schmuck, who plays half the boards and expect to win.
yeah,
Like they're just gonna get killed by that competition. So having one of the best clients is the most important thing. It's more important than having 4 of the best pros because the difference is so huge. Mextroth might be. I mean, Mextroth is better than me, but not nearly as big as like John Diamond compared to a very weak client who like just learned bridge and is very rich. That person will never win,
yeah. So
even if they have they have 4 Mextroths and John Diamond has 4 Me's. Not going to happen. And if you look at the past event, I mean, there's a reason Nickel, Fleischer, and Diamond win everything in USA.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Like everything. They're the only US teams who win.
So like the difference between you and Max Strauss would come out maybe every, I don't know, 1 in 20 or 1 in 50 hands, and the difference between, let's say, the way you said between me and Diamond would come out probably every single hand, that he will probably take a better decision,
Yeah, I mean,
probably
I
something
think
like that.
Diamond versus a bad client is at least 50 imps aboard, and
Yeah,
not a board. Sorry, 50 imps a match.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that the difference in Mac versus me might be 10 imps,
Hmm.
and there's only one. I mean, we're talking about a guy who I think is like the greatest player in the world. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like, and that's significant.
yeah.
If 4 mechs played for me in a long match, I would always lose.
Yeah.
So
Hmm. Hmm. And but is it so in this case you're talking like you're playing the like you have the same level of agreements and so on. So what do you think like the difference is between like top pairs and not so top pairs? How do you think like their level of agreements and the way they understand each other's play impacts that, or like a new pair will always be a bit behind them, or
I don't think that's the most. I think, well, correlated to that is when you're, to me, the biggest is when I'm defending.
yeah.
If I'm playing with Kevin Bathurst, I kind of know what's going on. I kind of know what the signals mean. And, a lot of people try and implement, and I don't think this is a bad strategy, but in this situation, we use this rule to determine which signal we need.
Hmm.
And there are thousands of them, but you can do that. But Kevin and I try and go, we think the same about certain situations. Like people look down upon, oh, I give what partner needs, as like, well, what does that mean? Well, that doesn't mean anything unless you talk to your partner. So if Kevin and I have a bidding or have a defensive accident, for me, it's going to be like, what were you thinking? Why were you thinking it? This is what I was thinking, so that we're more on the same page. We'll never make a rule.
Hmm.
Like, how do you make a rule? Like, okay, you have normal rules. If dummy wins a queen or higher against no trump, you give attitude. But what if dummy has six solid and they win a queen? Like it probably doesn't matter with the jack. You probably want to know where my entry is so I can lead through. So that is not covered by a rule. But I'm pretty sure Kevin and I, if dummy wins the queen, we give attitude. But in that spot, we would give suit preference.
Hmm.
You but yeah, having more agreements is definitely an area where top players have an edge. But there are a lot of other, the whole card play is equal at the top level is so silly. Like, okay, put me in and I play I declare like Helgamo on every hand. I'll put myself in a category one, level of player. Like
Hmm.
his difference in card play, and it's not. See, at some point you make the technical play, but you're declaring and a guy is defending, and they're in the tank, and you're like, just don't play this and I'll claim, or I'll make this line. Just don't play this. Don't play this. Don't play this. And then Helgamo like is in the tank and he underleads and dummy is king jack. And it's the setting trick. This actually happened. So he worked out that my partner had a void and he worked out that he had to tap my partner.
Hmm.
And he took forever to do it. So my partner is like, well, he could have worked it out, but like it's still a 50-50. Even at the point, it would be the right play. So if you look at just deep finesse, like what is the good card, what is the bad card? Well, they're all the same.
Yeah.
But when you're playing guys who give you the green card that allow you to have a red card, and then you have to go in the tank about it, like that's just really really strong bridge.
And how much do you think the difference is between making the technical play and also like reading your opponents? Like probably a lot of people can make the technical play, but to exploit kind of like the faults of your opponents is also a very big element, or like to know
At the
their
top,
tendencies.
I would say at the top levels, I'm not going to be reading Mac or reading Hello. Like even the example I just gave you, he thought for a long time, but he would have had to do that whether he had the ace or the queen. So he just made the best play,
Hmm.
like regardless that he had to think about it for a long time.
Hmm.
Some people you can get a read on their, when they think for a long time. An obvious one is, if someone instantly shoots out low and dummy is king jack when they have two tricks in against four hearts, they have the ace.
Yeah.
Because if they have the queen, they need to think, oh, does our partner have the ace? Is there anything? But that's kind of a lower level of play. I think to exploit better, I'm at almost all levels, that is a clue that you can use. But at the more higher levels, I think you don't think of that. You think more in terms of uh, what signals did they give? Because signals, especially early in the hand, your primary goal is to not mess up your partner.
Yeah.
unless you figured out very early on the goal of this hand is to screw your opponent. Like you probably gave a correct signal, and then maybe understanding how the signal comes into play, and that would be more what I use.
Yeah.
Like what happened earlier in the hand.
Oh, there were also these hands in which, like, your agreement is to lead fourth best, but you lead fifth best to to try to pretend that you only have four or things like that. But I guess that sort of things don't come too much into play. It's more in the books or
Not to play you like you're against 3-0 and you have 15 high cards.
yeah.
I mean, I've never led the correct spot
Okay.
because I'm going to mess up my partner. That's the most obvious, but
Yeah.
Also, I have like two aces and queen, jack, 10, 9, fifth. I'm going to try and get false count, acting like I have only four. So they'll knock out my aces and I have five. I mean, those are kind of standard.
Mhm.
You can deviate from that, but you deviate at the risk of messing up your partner. That's kind of, I play poker. The goal is to screw the opponent. In bridge, early in the hand, you can't. It's a big view to just screw your partner over.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I tend to believe, especially in the good players, their earlier signals.
Mhm. Yes, and I remember you were talking about this. There's always a big debate on what's more important, card play or bidding, and I think you're on the record in saying that it's almost always just card play, except maybe the very highest level. It's almost always card play that determines who's the better player or who's the better team.
It's not. It's not even close.
Yeah.
I challenge anyone to challenge me on that. It's not close.
Mhm.
Like if you take your tricks, I don't care what contract you're in. Those are match ones. Like you're in two clubs in the 3-3. This is how my dad and I used to roll back in the day. We'd be in the 3-2 and we'd be cross rough. It's just like okay, my goal is minus 100. So because it's hard to plan a play. You're the 3-2. What should you do? So the way we would think about it is how many tricks do I need to take to not get a zero, and then how can I achieve that? And yeah, a lot of times they can play ace, king, queen of trumps, but sometimes it's you're setting up your side suit or you let them get a rough or but eventually you're getting your own roughs. And then you reach some in games where they don't know what's going on and they like get in and they tap you to put you in when
Mm.
they have all the trumps except they're like confused. Um yeah, I mean there's almost no matches won where it's like, they just outbid us.
Mhm. Mhm.
And people have this feeling that more imps are swung on bidding. That is 100% true. If you play 12 to if you are Mextroth and Rodwell and play 12 to 14 no trump, and Mextroth and Rodwell's clones play 15 to 17 no trump, so they have the exact same judgment and whatever. They're swinging tons of imps.
Yeah.
Uh, Even in the play, because you have different, you open a club and they overcall a heart, so now you have different things. And I went 1 no 3 no. Like that. So yes, bidding swings more, but getting down to some in game where you know what is happening and guess the in game. That's bridge to me. That's how I play bridge. I can't even when hands are posted on the bridge based forum and it's like make a plan. It's like we do this. What do they do? What do they pitch?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. The best I gave you is I'll get down to this in game and guess it.
Mhm.
So that's
Mhm.
and you have a huge edge there, a real edge there.
Mhm. But I guess like top players usually by the time you get to like trick 7 or 8, they will usually see all the cards or unless it's or what do you think of this? Like I've heard this.
On most hands, most top players will know all the cards by trick seven.
Hmm.
I agree with that. But let's say you're someone who does that 99 out of 100 times versus someone who does that 97 out of 100 times.
Hmm.
You're both very, very good. You're elite.
Yeah.
But still, twice out of 100 hands, you don't know the hand. So you're using less information to figure out how to make the best play. Do I think that Helgamo knows the hands more often at trick seven than me? Yes. Do I think I almost always know the hands at trick seven? Yes. And but a lot of that is knowing your defensive carding. Defensive
Hmm.
carding has come a long way. Like my partner has told me, I can't know the hands unless my partner tells me. It's like my partner gave me count here, and then soup preference, and then in trumps, and then gave me an attitude pitch, and then he gave me a standard count pitch in that suit. Okay, well if I don't know the hand now, I'm retarded. But but part of that is my partner is giving me good signals.
Hmm.
The corollary to that is, as declare, they're giving you a lot of information, guys. You're all very scared that we false carded you in every spot. We're good players, so we haven't told you the hand, so we must have false carded. No. If you have a guess, play us to have given honest carding, totally honest carding.
Hmm.
We make bank off of just giving honest carding to our partner, and then my opponent being like, "Oh, Justin Lall or Joe Grew, he's clearly false carded. I will never play for them." Well, so now you're having your cake and eating it too. You
Yeah.
get to signal your partner, and your opponents don't believe you.
And there, you're also talking about like there are like differences between countries in this regard. Like in some countries they always card honestly, and in other countries they sometimes don't. Or
Well, the countries that give count primarily always give it honestly.
oh,
And I'm talking to you, France. Yeah, Thomas. Thomas, I'm looking at you, Mr. Bassis. And Poland, talking to you. Even though you young guys, you're doing some tricky stuff, you're Polish. You're giving count. So, yeah. France and Poland, they're giving you count, and it's on. Okay? Now, who knows what Fantoni and low from an honor and a third,
oh yeah.
I don't even understand Stanislav, but I bet they don't false card that because who would? Because no one knows what it means anyway.
First you have to figure out what you have to lead, and then yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, and Americans, uh, we give attitude a lot, and we're pretty, okay, you pitch some wrong attitude.
Mm,
I think that people with their suit preference in trumps, or that's the most, or you're running your suit and you're gonna get in. I think people give the suit preference signals way too honestly, and I think that's because that's the most recent signal to join the game. That's very important.
mm,
It's just like people who started playing upside down. They never false carded because the opponents didn't understand. We've reached a point where people are giving suit preference way too honestly because it's a relatively new thing.
but it's also like I guess they could say like, well, I mean, let's say from your point of view as declarer, like you have let's say you have everything in diamonds, but you have like kind of a hole in clubs. You know that already, but maybe they don't know that between them, so it's more useful to them in a way. Of course,
I'm
that
sorry. So I have everything in diamonds,
yes, and
and
and maybe you're missing the club ace or club queen or something, and like defense doesn't know this, but you know that anyway. Let's say. So it is more useful for defense to know this. Is it? Does
yeah,
that make?
yeah, that makes sense.
So I mean, in a way, but of course, then you know where the ace of clubs is. So that's of course useful for you too. So I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean that happened.
yeah.
And sometimes dummy has ace queen jack of a suit, so they're not going to pitch attitude as defenders. They can give suit preference or
Mm-hmm,
count or whatever they want.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yes, it's definitely asymmetrical. Sometimes it's better for declarer knows more than them about the important stuff, and sometimes they know more about the hand than declarer in the
mm-hmm,
end.
mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a flaw with the game.
No, yeah, sure. And so about the signaling things, when you're playing and your partner gives you a signal, do you try to figure out why they sent the signal? I mean, I guess normally you would, but I think a lot of players, like let's say my level or below, would just kind of like blindly do whatever partner is telling them in a like okay, he asked for a club, whatever, and
Yes, I actually think that you're totally right. You see people, especially in unequal, like if I'm playing with someone less experienced than me, if I signal for something, it's like, well, you told me to play a club. No, I don't tell you to play a club. I say I have a club honor.
mhm
Like to me, that's the right. I tell you what I have, and you figure it out.
mhm mhm
I think there was a Berkowitz and Cohen article. One of them was arguing for telling your partner what to do, and one of them was arguing for telling your partner what you have and letting them figure out what to do. And in certain situations, like probably the ideal format would be if it's obvious that the other guy knows what to do, he should be able to signal what to do.
mhm
If not, he signals what he has and lets his partner figure out the hand using the bidding, the dummy, the signal. But I'm a big believer in I'll tell my partner what I have. They can from there make their best get, and it's not always right. Sometimes you only get one signal. Like
mhm
they have one piece of information, but they also have the bidding. They also have their hand, which we don't know.
yeah
It's more likely that the guy who gets a signal from their partner can figure out what to do because he knows his hand. If the signaler is saying do this, he has less information because he doesn't know his partner's hand
mhm
and he hasn't
mhm
gotten a signal from partner. So I think theoretically the correct way to play is you tell your partner what you have, they go from there.
mhm
But there are some situations where it's obvious that the other hand should know what to do.
mhm
And maybe then you should revert, but I'm not that advanced. I just kind of tell my partner.
So then there is some kind of a disagreement even at the top level, and which approach is better, or
Well, this article I think was maybe 15 years ago.
oh okay.
I would, part of the problem in bridge is people bring up agreements or books that were written like 40 years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
like the
said
70s, yeah,
this,
like
or Mike Lawrence said this about Overcall. Those were amazing books.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong; those were groundbreaking books. But you know, especially when it comes to signaling, the game has changed.
Mhm
And I would say that almost all top pairs tell their partner what they have now, because
mhm
I think that's theoretically more sound.
yeah
But yes, it's easy. I think it's also part of laziness, Chaba. Like you kind of don't know what to do, and you can figure out this hand or whatever, or you can just play a club and be like, "Well, you told me to play a club." Like, you know what I mean? Like that's just mental laziness. It's just like, well, this is a hard hand, but my partner said to play a club, so do I really want to look at the bidding and the inferences and this and that and their line of play and then, break up a squeeze? At the end of the day, I know my partner has good clubs. I'll play a club.
yeah.
And, you know, and by the way, I'm super guilty of that. I'm a super lazy bridge player. It's one of my worst faults.
So
But
yeah,
you
I
can't
wanted to ask you
as long
about
as you can't excuse yourself by saying partner told me to play a club, I played a club, end of conversation, then at least you'll feel bad about it enough where if you feel bad you'll overcome your laziness sometimes.
yeah, like
I'm
I
speaking my
actually had this a lot. I still play this like Roman signals, like odd card encourages and things like that, and then sometimes all they have is an odd card. So and then it's like, no, come on, you told me. So I mean, it's not my fault. Like
No, it's your partner's fault for not pitching a really slow odd card.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Slow odd and not even is like, dude, I
Or
have
you can play it like like hold it up for a while and then put it down, or just like kind of slide it on the table, and yeah, I
yeah, yeah, I've seen that one. I've seen the play and flip at the same time.
don't
You see your card and you just like shake your hand and turn it over and then flip.
know.
I think that's the right approach to audio.
Yeah. And yeah, I wanted to ask you about what do you think has the most impact on like I don't know, normal bridge matches or top level, whatever you want to talk about, between like being very good, or just like let's say your maximum skill you said is slightly less than Hagamol's, or whatever. But then again, you would make some stupid mistakes, and Helgamo would make some stupid mistakes. Which one is the bigger factor? I would guess it's the stupid mistakes, but
So I mean, let's say I'm slightly worse than Helgamo.
yes.
If I was going into a match against Helgamo, yes, I would hope that I would play my A game and that he would play his B game, and then I think I could beat him. Yeah, if we both play our A game, he'll probably beat me, but there's still an element of luck. But I'm not going in thinking, well, Helgamo, he's better than me. I should just bid like a 10% slam because that's my only chance. That's horrible. I
Hmm.
mean, it depends on the length of the match, but the shorter the match is, the more likely it is, even if none of you make mistakes. Like my 40% action worked better than his 60% action.
Yeah, and
So
that's
I
like
think that I think it's basically always correct to go in trying to play your A game. People know their bodies, their diets, their sleep habits, their mental game, pumping yourself up. I get extremely, I'm telling you now, other people are better than me. When I'm playing against Helgamo, I'm a favorite in my mind.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that might not be rational, but it is rational to me in terms of, trying to win the match.
Hmm.
I'm not going in defeated like this guy's better than me. I'm just like, man, I feel really good today. I know I'm gonna play my best, and I think if I play my best, I'll beat anyone.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
because they don't rate to play their best, I don't think my best is better than anyone's best. But and I think that's true of all levels. Like Chaba, if you're playing with me in a 24 board match, should you just like open three clubs on Queen Jack 10 fifth? No, that's like a really horrible.
Hmm.
I understand it increases variance, but at such cost of expected value, if that was even a reasonable thing to do, someone might do it
Hmm.
every now and then. So I
Yeah,
think
I
it's way
mean,
more likely that you just play your game and we get things wrong or we're unlucky or we just don't play very well that day and you play really well.
but let's say when you are not playing well, or a top player is not playing well, is that just simply like failure to think things through in a clear way, or is it really just like missing a spot, and that can be like a huge like a, kind of a like a lapse in concentration, or
I mean, honestly, if I knew how to not if I always knew how to play my A game, I would. I don't know what causes it to when I'm not playing it. Yeah, sometimes it's just playing too fast and
hmm.
overlooking something. For me, it's not usually missing spots, but for like people are different. A lot of people they missed a spot, which was a key signal, and they had to guess. For me, it's playing too fast is much always the case, or emotional stuff like we just had two bad boards,
Hmm.
and now I have a decision where I can go big, I can make a big play or not.
Hmm.
I often, to be honest, succumb to making the big play.
Just
Probably to
playing
try and get
the triple squeeze instead of the
something.
spinas, or
Yeah,
yeah,
but I think everyone's different. Some people miss spots. Some people don't see the action. Some people are in a fog. I think everyone has different. My biggest one though is if I don't sleep well. I don't need that much sleep, but if I don't sleep well, I feel it. I feel it the next day. Like I'm not totally alert to everything.
yeah. Hmm. So right now you should be sleeping, or
Well, I'm not playing tomorrow. I have a bye.
oh, okay, 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 okay.
I have a bye on the 16th, luckily.
Yeah, and what back to this tournament, would you like try to watch the other games and see if you can spot some like to try to learn something about your possible opponents, or is that just like overrated, or you
Well,
know most of them already, or
are, like the main like the other two teams who have a bye. Brad Moss is one of my best friends. Ish, one of my best friends. I've played a lot against Marty Fleischer,
hmm.
uh, Wolinkin, and Rosenberg. I haven't played that much against them, but I know their games well. you know, Kane has Joe Grew, my best friend, and Curtis. Like we, so I don't think I'll learn anything about their game.
Okay.
I think it's better to take a little rest, but I often find myself watching just because, you're kind of like I usually sit out the first set. So if I wake up early, I shower, I have breakfast, and now there's 30 minutes, I guarantee you I'll be watching Viewgraph, even
Hmm.
though I shouldn't.
And
And if
is
my
it
team's on Viewgraph, I'll wake earlier to watch
mhm.
the entire thing,
And
which is a bad
do you
habit.
think do you think like do you try to like figure out all the hands and like to think together with your teammates, or do you think that that's just like a waste of energy?
No, I totally result. When my team is on, I like click deep finesse or gib, or whatever they call it now. And then when my teammate is thinking, I click the button really fast. So I might click the button like 200 times that I want them to play. In none of that time will I figure out is that a good play or not. I'll just keep clicking it. And probably
Okay.
if they're in the tank, they're considering it. But yeah, I definitely don't look at the hands and analyze them. I more just root for the thing that will work.
All right, right. But it's
As
like
I bet a lot of people, if you're rooting for a team, do the right thing. I'm not going to think about is this the good thing or what are you thinking? No, I will just do the right thing.
but this was actually I mean, of course, like you have this big interest in the teams, and also it would probably like if you had to think really deep, like it would probably kind of like exhaust you. But I heard like for like people outside, like fans or just like kind of students of the game, it's better to like to keep it only a particular player and try to figure out everything from their point of view, like hide all the other hands, hide the commentary, hide everything. Do you think that's a
Yeah,
good way?
absolutely. If you're better, you should think from because you don't want a result. You don't want to do what I just said. You want to think from their point of view. So if my goal is to get better during the tournament, that's exactly what I would do.
Hmm.
But of course, my goal is to not get tired out and just be a cheerleader rooting for the win. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. If you're going to watch Geograph as an instructive study, you should watch one person and think about every situation they had from their point of view because you can't help but be biased by seeing all the hands, and on top of that, the commentators see all the hands. So you know, if the commentators win and played, they would be the champion because they
Yeah,
see
the
all the hands.
commentators is like now a low club would beat it, and like
Yeah, low club is automatic.
and similarly to this, when you're dummy, do you try to think about the hand at all, or
Yes, absolutely,
mhm.
and I think that's a bad habit. I, I don't know. I play very fast, and my partners are known for playing very slow. So when they're in the tank, I have almost always figured out what I want them to do.
Okay,
Like your trick eight tank, like you know the hand, you know the guess.
yeah.
So I figured out what I want. And actually, there was a funny story. So Kevin is always slower than me. So I would say at least 99% of the time when I'm rooting for something, Kevin does it, and I give a passive aggressive. That's my play before they even follow. Like, why are you so? And I would say, the 1% of the time that we differ, he's usually right because
Oh.
he's the player. He's more into the hand, so he's probably right. But I'm like, whatever. I know he's gonna do what I think he should do, and it just takes me 3 minutes of my life. So screw you, Kevin. By the way, but we had a run where Kevin like thought for 3 minutes and did something, and I said, "That's my play," and it was wrong. And then Kevin thought for 3 minutes and did something, and I said, "This is all in one tournament." I said, "That's my play," it was wrong. So, so finally, I say, "Kevin, I'm not going to root ever again. I'm not rooting. This is bad luck." So Kevin is thinking, and it started with the auction started one no trump by him, and they doubled, showing a 4 card major and a longer minor, and he got to 3 no, and they led the deuce of hearts. Okay,
Yeah.
so they have four hearts, and he won, and this woman showed four hearts. So now Kevin has a claim with hearts 4-4. So he thinks forever, and he plays for hearts 4-4, and I'm just like, what? Come on, man. And hearts were 5-3. This person had like double one no four card major long or minor with five little hearts. Continued it by leading fourth with the deuce, like leading fifth, and then this one gave false count. And then Kevin's like, I had an extra vig to make it like in this weird layout. And I'm like, dude, my life is too short for you to not play for 4-4 hearts. I like your play. So ever since then, I don't root for him to do anything because three in a row, that's bad luck.
But like if if your partner does something wrong, I guess you wouldn't talk about it right then, or I see actually often dummy tries to complain about declarer or something like that, or but that's
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's really
it's bad for morale, but B, if Kevin does something and I think it's wrong, I'm more likely to be wrong because he
okay.
was the
So
client.
you
Like, I promise. Have to at least think about it. If I think he did something wrong, every now and then one of us will just lose our mind and it'll be insta sorry. But if
yeah.
that doesn't happen, I would say, if he's dummy, he's probably wrong, and if I'm dummy, I'm probably wrong. But we will discuss it. But you have to be pretty confident, because often I've just been like, "Couldn't you do this?" And you're like, "No." They would just claim. That's it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Or I mean of
So
course like on
I
my
think
level. Sorry.
you do that a lot more as dummy. Like if
Yeah.
you don't trust your partner, then yeah, definitely you might want to say something.
I mean, on my level, there's also sometimes like dummy asks like, why didn't you take all your diamond tricks? And you had six diamonds, and the other one, no, I just had five. What are you talking about? Like there's some really basic stuff that I don't know, like really, or like why didn't you ruffle heart? And it's like, well, heart, I had two and dummy had two. Are like really basic, and it's funny that dummy never stops to think like, oh, maybe I miscounted something, or
Yeah, well, maybe I'm wrong. It's the same in life. Like if someone does something you don't agree with, people automatically assume their opinion is right. To me, it's like, okay, think about it and
yeah.
make sure you're right, and then bring it up. And don't be confrontational because you still might be wrong.
Yeah, you can just well, I mean, you can just phrase it as a question, like how like what was your distribution again, and I don't know, like things like that, and
Yeah.
just
But I think if your goal is to win the event that you're playing, you should never bring anything up at the table.
mhm,
But you should always bring it up afterwards, especially for bidding or defense. You must bring it up.
mhm. But I actually that was an interesting discussion. That I think it was in the forums. I think brought it up, Francis Hindon, that they bid to five spades doubled or something. So they bid five spades over five hearts, and she was declarer, and she went down two or whatever, and her partner, he thought that five hearts was going down, so he thought of that as a big disaster. But actually, Francis, or like for the other three players at the table, it was clear that five hearts was making. So then Dummy said something like, "Hey, you should have let me know about this, because like for me it was some kind of a factor in the match. Like you're supposed to let them know that actually five spades double was the right decision, like the right contract."
Yes, I agree with that only if you can see that your partner is wrong. Because you also don't want to take a good save and then say to your partner, "Oh, that was a good save," because that's kind of being rude to the opponent.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's clear that my partner thinks that it was a bad save, I would just say, "Don't worry, they're making."
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, just like it's simple, just a few words. To
You shouldn't say it always because oh, I made a good save and now I'm gloating about it to my partner. Your opponents might feel that way.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. You
you
can phrase it in a
Well, everyone should be their own person, but the only people at the table are you and your partner. Like you're in it together. You're in a war.
Yeah.
Like people are trying to beat you down. The other table is trying to beat you down. Like so, if your partner thinks that it was a bad save, it might impact their estimation or their morale. So yeah, I would say something, but I would try and definitely not make it rude to the opponent,
Yeah.
or at least clear the opponent. What I'm saying is not just like, oh look at me, I'm so cool, I did good saving.
Yeah. Yeah. Like people often don't think about the tone, or they just be like, yeah, they were making. Yeah, I don't know, like just like, but
Well, I think professional is different. Like, act professional. Don't be like gloating.
mhm, mhm,
Like, a lot of times, very inexperienced players will play against me, and this has happened many times. Like I double them, so then they make. So they look at the bidding box, and I tell them the score, and they're like, "I've never made a double contract. I'm so happy I made a double contract. I was so nervous." And, I'm happy for those people. To be honest, I'm like, I hope I don't lose the match, but that those people probably tell the story. Yeah, Justin Lall doubled me, and I was nervous, and some claims it was amazing. But good for them. So I don't mind if I feel like professionals and non-professionals connect differently, especially like I don't mind if a non-professional, especially like a very intermediate player, will gloat against me when they get a good board because they're not trying to gloat; they're just really happy they got such a good
yeah.
board against me.
Yeah, like what one time it happened that I think I was defending 3-0 Trump, and it was clear like a husband and wife, and the wife was not so experienced. So the husband became dummy in 3-0 Trump, and he went to get a beer or whatever, and he came back and he asked his wife what happened, and then she said like kind of pointing at me like, well, he discarded from his 4 card heart, so I made it, like something like that. And he just
Yeah,
meant it like, what happened? Like, oh, you made it good, like something.
yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah. But okay, I mean, and then he immediately said like, no, no, you should you shouldn't speak like that. Like he was immediately like telling her. But
That's
I
good.
mean, I knew that it was like, and in a way, like I really did make a big mistake. So it was in a way deserved or whatever. So like, I don't know. It was kind of funny. But so we should talk a little bit about Bridge-based forums because you're like kind of the most famous member there, more or less. Fred also posts, but
If it's the most posts, if that makes me the most famous.
well, you definitely have the most usernames, so that counts for something. I probably like I can think of 4 or 5, but you probably had more. So
Yeah. I don't. I mean, I kind of agree with the bridge-based forums. I think I started posting in 2004 or 2000. So I was like, 22.
mm,
Did I
but
do math right there? Math.
yes,
No.
no, wait,
No.
no, you're 18. You're born in
18.
'86, or
Math is hard, man. Eights and four
yeah.
seems like a two. Eight plus four. This goes to show you do not need to be good at math to be good at bridge. Otherwise, chops would be like elite. All right, so I was 18, and yeah, that was kind of when I started drinking too, and like I don't know, it was like I didn't go to college. Like my first 4 years of the bridge based forums were like college. Like I would troll people, and I would, and I was like a no one in bridge, so I'd post really hard when I was talking strategy, and then I would post on the off-topic forums about my the people I loved and whatever. So there was like some good times, some bad times. I think I threatened to quit a couple of times, which is very mature. And then I kind of was getting better at bridge, and then I was like super cocky.
Yeah,
So I like made a jlall account
yeah,
where
yeah,
all
yeah,
I
yeah,
did
yeah.
was
That was great.
which which I thought was a good idea. because there's no like plus vote or minus vote. There's no. This is before like buttons on Facebook and stuff. So then everyone decided if they didn't like a post, they would say LOL. So now it was like post LOL, and then someone would quote the LOL because it was a stupid LOL and LOL it. And then, so that didn't work out well. So now they added like plus votes and down votes. And then, that was kind of a popularity contest. Which, by the way, to this day I maintain the best forum I posted on. You could, if not everyone, it wasn't like plus one or minus one. People who had more reputation, if they upvoted you or downvoted you, that had more weight. So new accounts can just come in and barrage you with, minus whatever the cap was. But anyway, so now there was, that whole scandal, and I was kind of less cocky, but then it was kind of like people were coming after me. It
Yeah.
was like I was an easy, which I actually enjoyed. It was like okay, so but I was kind of getting trolled, but also just kind of getting people were going after me. And then I think after the trials that I won, then it was like everyone acted like, oh, I'm such a well-established, really good player. And in my mind, it was like I'm not more like I'm the same caliber of player. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. You have to in bridge to prove you're a good player. You have to have results. That was by far my biggest result. But then it was like too much of everyone agreeing with me, and now I felt bad because if I disagreed with someone, they felt like someone who was a celebrity disagreed with them, and it might hurt their feelings. Whereas before, I was just some punk, early 20s kid.
Yeah,
So,
like they
so
would
yeah.
instantly change their mind, or
Right?
they would like instantly change their mind if you disagree. Like, oh yeah, actually, all right, and like,
Yeah, exactly. And it was even to the point where if I would post first in a thread, everyone would agree with me. So then I stopped. I let like 20 people post, and then I would post to not like skew the field. But it's kind of weird. Like people think it's celebrity, but it's not. Like to me, it's like, dude, I love playing bridge. I
hmm
like to have a few drinks, hang out with Chaba, be on BBO, Psych, you know, try and get better at bridge, and then all of a sudden I win one event. I'm not a much better player than I was before that, but now it's all different.
yeah,
And
but they,
but so that kind of made me realize I have to be kind of more of an ambassador. Like I can't just tell someone to shut the fuck up on the bridge based forums because now it's like, oh, Justin Lall said that, and I'm not trying to be arrogant or anything, but I took it more. It's more of a responsibility, so I kind of didn't post much, but
mm,
tried to post quality when I posted.
yeah, like
And
you
that's
have
still
this
how.
long post explaining in detail why you do stuff, and you have that sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah, but I
it's
love.
definitely appreciated. I can, but I mean, you can see that from all the upvotes. So.
But yeah, that's why I started posting on anonymous names sometimes, so that it wouldn't, no one would be that upset if I said, I really don't agree with you, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Most people wouldn't listen, but that was kind of cool too. It's like building a new reputation
Oh,
without
there was
having.
this kind of, well, it wasn't a scandal, but like this affair with Maggie B or something, or
Maggie B.
yeah,
Yeah.
you don't you. I don't remember anymore who exactly it was, but I know it was kind of shared between several top players. Like it was a completely unknown name, and then it was just like Maggie B says a lot of makes a lot of sense, and she would write about her
I'm not.
husband and things like that. But
That goes to my grave. It's in my will though. My will, Chabo will know who was behind Maggie B. But before then, you will not know.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, but do you feel like it helps you reading like other people's posts? Like I mean, obviously if like Mike H or like Andy Balls or like one of these really famous guys posts, that will probably help you. But like average random people's posts, or is it like you learn by proving them wrong, or
average random people's posts, like most of your bridge is against no matter what you play, unless you play only the Vanderbilt. You're playing even national pair games, average random people.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what you're trying to figure out, like I said earlier, I try and get to an in game and figure it out, is how do these people think? And they're
Oh.
not bad players. You know, the average novice, okay, whatever, like they cover an honor with an honor. But the average, like a lot of the players on bridge based forums are people you would see in day one of a pair game and they'd be average,
Mm-hmm.
and in day two of a national pair game and they would be probably the weaker part of the field. And winning those is exploiting those people. So I learned a lot about what are these guys thinking and how are they thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to incorporate that into what I expected them to have in an end game. I learned a lot about that. Also, learned sometimes that I was just wrong. Like I had a view, and no, it wouldn't just be like, okay, five average people posters thought I was wrong. That didn't, but they would make an argument, and maybe I would make a counter argument. You know, you really clarify your thoughts on why you think some things by typing it out. And a lot of these things that you think on instinct, or you think on it's a bad pattern, you know, that's life. So sometimes I'd be like, oh, I'm just wrong here. I shouldn't be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that happened less frequently. I would say the same thing.
Wait,
Like I in style, it's learning the different ways that people play. And you know, we were talking earlier about the Polish card this way, the French card this way. Same with bidding stuff. The Dutch, the Scandinavians, you know, and Australia. You could learn based on what these people were thinking. This is normal limb. Okay, so you go to an international tournament and you don't know anything about a guy and you have to figure out a hand. Well, oh, what's your name? All right, you're Mr. Smith, and, and then you ask them, oh, English accent, all right. Even just like second and fourth, the English will tell you they play second and fourth. That means they lead fourth, but second from nothing. The Poles, that means I lead low from doubleton and like middle from three.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like just knowing those things. But yeah, I would say so. It's a mix. I learned sometimes that the average players were right and I was wrong. I learned more about how the average player thinks. I learned more about the regional differences. I learned more about when typing out my thought processes where I was wrong. So it's kind of all of that. That's what talking bridge is.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think to talk bridge only with your select, you know, if I talk to Craniac group, you know, the quote unquote, we're now not juniors, we have groupthink. Like I'm not
Yep.
gonna them. So learning from this outside group was very helpful and is very helpful.
Mm-hmm. 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 And what do you think? For example, I saw you once. You were asking about this book from Bird and Antias. Do you think like people's tendencies will change because of that book? And do you think or will you try to read it to try to understand what people are doing? Or
I'm sorry you cut out there. Can you repeat
yeah,
the
let's
question?
we can try to connect and disconnect because I think there's some problem. Let's try in a second.